Good afternoon. Today, I want to direct your attention to a condition that most people underestimate until it's too late. Sarcopenia. It's not just about muscle loss, it's about losing the very tissue that drives your metabolism, supports your brain, and protects your bones. This is not a cosmetic issue. It's a functional issue. Sarcopenia is a silent and progressive condition that many people are completely unaware of until it begins to impact their daily function. It refers to the age-related loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength, and it begins much earlier than most expect, typically around the age of 30. From that point onward, if no countermeasures are taken, the average person can expect to lose 3 to 8% of their muscle mass each decade. By the time someone reaches 70 or 80 years old, they may have lost over 30% of their original muscle mass, often without even realizing it. But sarcopenia isn't just about being weaker or appearing less toned. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It plays a central role in glucose regulation, fat metabolism, and even immune system function. Muscle is also tightly linked to bone density, balance, and injury prevention. When muscle mass declines, all of these systems begin to operate less efficiently. What follows can be a cascade of health problems: insulin resistance, osteoporosis, frailty, and an increased risk of falls and fractures. And yet, despite the profound impact sarcopenia has on aging and health span, it's rarely discussed in mainstream conversations around wellness. One of the core problems with sarcopenia is that it is gradual and often misattributed to just getting older. People don't feel its onset the way they might with a sudden injury. They may just notice they're slower getting up from a chair, have less endurance for a walk, or find that recovering from exertion takes longer. But these are not benign signs. These are biological alarms indicating that muscle tissue is being lost, and with it, the foundation of metabolic and physical resilience. The causes of sarcopenia are multifactorial. They include a sedentary lifestyle, inadequate protein intake, chronic inflammation, hormonal changes like decreases in testosterone, estrogen, and growth hormone, and reduced responsiveness to anabolic stimuli, what researchers call anabolic resistance. Over time, even those who appear relatively healthy on the outside may experience a deep erosion of muscle quality and function. Importantly, this process does not have to be inevitable. While aging does shift the physiological landscape, it does not mandate the loss of muscle. Sarcopenia is not simply a passive byproduct of age. It is a result of underuse, undernutrition, and a failure to send the proper growth signals to the muscle tissue. That's why identifying early warning signs and taking proactive steps, particularly with targeted nutrition and resistance training, is so essential. Recognizing sarcopenia as a clinical biological condition rather than just a cosmetic or aging concern reframes the approach entirely. It becomes less about fitness and more about function, autonomy, and longevity. The good news is that muscle is highly plastic even into advanced age. With the right stimulus through both movement and nutrient signaling, it can be preserved, rebuilt, and optimized. But it starts with awareness, because what you don't measure, what you don't feel declining day by day, can quietly take away years of strength, health, and independence. At the core of sarcopenia lies a fundamental imbalance between two opposing physiological processes: muscle protein synthesis, MPS, and muscle protein breakdown, MPB. These processes occur continuously throughout our lives in a delicate tug-of-war. When we're young, MPS generally outpaces MPB, particularly after meals and physical activity. This creates a net anabolic or growth state, allowing us to build and maintain lean muscle. However, as we age, the balance starts to shift, and unless we take deliberate action, muscle breakdown begins to outpace synthesis. That shift is the true engine behind sarcopenia. To understand why this happens, we have to zoom in on what triggers muscle protein synthesis in the first place. MPS is not automatic. It requires clear, strong stimuli, most notably resistance exercise and the intake of essential amino acids, particularly leucine. When you lift weights or perform any form of resistance training, you generate tension and micro damage in your muscle fibers. This damage sends a signal to your body: repair and rebuild stronger. But without the appropriate amino acids, especially in older adults, this signal fails to complete the loop. This brings us to a key concept in the biology of aging muscle: anabolic resistance. As people grow older, their muscle tissue becomes less sensitive to the normal triggers of synthesis. That means the same 20 grams of protein that would have triggered a robust muscle building response in a 25-year-old barely registers in someone over 60. unless the right amino acid profile, particularly a high leucine content, is present. This resistance doesn't mean the muscle is broken or incapable of responding. It simply means it takes a stronger, more targeted signal to achieve the same outcome. Compounding the problem is a gradual decline in physical activity. Many people reduce their exercise intensity or frequency as they age, sometimes due to injury, work demands, or simply lifestyle shifts. This reduction in movement leads to less muscle stimulation, which means less synthesis. At the same time, chronic low-grade inflammation, which increases with age, further promotes muscle degradation and impairs recovery. Additionally, many diets, especially in older adults, are deficient in high-quality protein. Skipping meals, relying on carbohydrate-heavy snacks, or choosing lower protein options leads to insufficient amino acid availability throughout the day. Even when total daily protein intake is adequate, if it's not evenly distributed or lacks the proper amino acid composition, it may not overcome anabolic resistance. All of these factors, less activity, poorer nutrient intake, and blunted sensitivity to anabolic signals, add up over time. The result is a slow, persistent net loss of muscle tissue. It's not that muscle disappears overnight, it just degrades incrementally when synthesis is consistently below the level of breakdown. The good news is that this imbalance can be reversed, but doing so requires intentional strategies designed to stimulate synthesis more powerfully and more frequently than breakdown. That means selecting the right nutrients delivered at the right time, combined with appropriate mechanical stress resistance training being the gold standard. Once this shift occurs and synthesis once again outpaces breakdown, the trajectory of muscle aging can be changed. It is not only possible to stop muscle loss, it's possible to rebuild. When it comes to reversing sarcopenia and rebuilding muscle rapidly, there is one nutrient that consistently rises above the rest in the scientific literature: leucine. Leucine is one of the 3 branch-chain amino acids BCAAs, along with isoleucine and valine. But it plays a far more dominant role in muscle metabolism. It's not just a building block for muscle tissue, it's a biological trigger that flips the switch on the muscle building process. This makes it unique among nutrients and places it at the center of any effective strategy to combat muscle loss. The process of muscle protein synthesis (MPS) is complex and tightly regulated by numerous factors. One of the key regulators is a signaling pathway known as mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. mTOR is often described as the anabolic switch in the body. When activated, it initiates the process of synthesizing new muscle protein. Leucine is the primary dietary activator of this pathway. Simply put, when leucine levels in the blood rise, typically after a meal rich in leucine, it directly stimulates mTOR, kickstarting muscle protein synthesis even in the absence of exercise. This is especially important in older adults. As the body ages, it becomes resistant to the usual triggers of muscle growth, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. This means that the same meal or workout that would build muscle in a 25-year-old may do very little in someone who. However, studies have shown that increasing the leucine content of meals can override this resistance. In other words, leucine helps older muscles respond more like younger ones. Research has identified a threshold dose of leucine needed to maximally stimulate M. For most adults, this is around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal. Many common protein sources, especially plant-based ones, do not contain enough leucine to reach this threshold unless consumed in large quantity. For example, a serving of whey protein typically provides the right amount of leucine, whereas many plant proteins fall short unless specifically fortified. This is why attention to leucine content, not just total protein, becomes so critical. Clinical trials have shown that leucine supplementation, especially when combined with resistance training, leads to greater increases in lean body mass, strength, and physical performance compared to protein alone. In one study involving older adults, those receiving leucine-enriched protein showed significantly higher gains in leg strength and muscle thickness over a 12-week period than those receiving standard protein. It's also worth noting that leucine works best when it's part of a complete protein source, one that includes all essential amino acids. While leucine can trigger the initiation of muscle building, the process still requires the full set of amino acids to actually construct new tissue. That's why combining leucine with high-quality protein sources such as whey, eggs, or animal protein is ideal. In summary, leucine is not merely helpful, it's essential in the fight against sarcopenia. Its ability to directly activate muscle-building pathways makes it the most powerful nutrient in this context. For anyone serious about rebuilding muscle quickly and effectively, especially in midlife and beyond, ensuring adequate leucine intake is not optional. It's foundational. Leucine's power to rebuild muscle lies in its direct interaction with a specific cellular pathway, known as mTOR, or the mechanistic target of rapamycin. mTOR acts as the master regulator of anabolic processes in the body, particularly muscle protein synthesis. When leucine levels in the blood rise after a protein-rich meal, for instance, mTOR is activated, which in turn initiates the complex machinery needed to build new muscle protein. In this way, leucine acts less like a passive nutrient and more like a signal telling the body that conditions are optimal for growth and repair. This signaling role makes leucine fundamentally different from other amino acids. All essential amino acids are required to build muscle, but only leucine has the unique ability to initiate the process. Think of it this way: all the amino acids are bricks, but leucine is the foreman who decides when construction starts. Without leucine, even if all other amino acids are present, muscle protein synthesis remains muted. With leucine, even a moderate amount of protein can lead to a strong anabolic response, especially when timed correctly. This is particularly relevant in aging populations. As people grow older, their muscles become less responsive to normal dietary protein. This is the phenomenon of anabolic resistance, which makes it harder to maintain or build muscle with the same habits that worked in youth. However, this resistance can be overcome by ensuring that each meal contains enough leucine to activate mTOR. Research shows that this threshold is around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal, a target that is often not met, especially in breakfast or plant-based meals. Once mTOR is activated by leucine, it stimulates a cascade of downstream processes that include ribosomal protein synthesis, mitochondrial biogenesis, and ultimately the construction of new muscle fibers. But activation of mTOR is not sustained indefinitely. It peaks and then tapers off. This is why timing and distribution of leucine intake throughout the day matter. Rather than loading all protein into one meal, consuming leucine-rich protein sources every 4 to 5 hours ensures that the mTOR pathway is activated repeatedly, supporting ongoing muscle repair and growth. Importantly, the effects of leucine are significantly enhanced when combined with resistance exercise. Physical activity, particularly weight training or high-tension movements, also stimulates mTOR, but through a different set of mechanical and cellular signals. When exercise and leucine converge, their effects are synergistic. They amplify each other. This is why post-workout nutrition strategies often emphasize fast-digesting, leucine-rich proteins like whey. They ensure a strong anabolic signal right when the muscles are most receptive. There are also nuances to how leucine is absorbed and utilized. For instance, free-form leucine supplements can spike blood levels quickly, but their effects may be short-lived. Whole food sources or complete proteins with high leucine content tend to provide a more balanced, sustained signal. The source of leucine matters. Whey protein isolate, eggs, lean beef, and certain fish like tuna and salmon all provide excellent leucine concentration. Ultimately, the mechanism by which leucine triggers mTOR and drives muscle synthesis is a powerful example of how nutrient signaling can be harnessed to restore physical function. Leucine doesn't just supply the raw materials for muscle, it tells the body to start building. For anyone dealing with sarcopenia or aiming to optimize muscle health, understanding and applying this mechanism is essential. To maximize the benefits of leucine and stimulate effective muscle rebuilding, dosage and delivery are critical. It's not enough to simply consume more protein or take a supplement randomly. The body's anabolic response, especially in older adults, is highly dependent on how much leucine you get, how often you get it, and what other factors are present when you consume. Research has consistently shown that approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal is required to fully activate muscle protein synthesis, particularly in individuals over the age of 50. This threshold is higher than what's typically found in many common meals. For example, a serving of chicken breast, about 100 grams, contains roughly 2.5 grams of leucine, while a large egg contains only about 0.5 grams. This means most people would need to consume 5 to 6 eggs, or a large portion of meat or fish, to hit the required leucine threshold at each meal. Most breakfasts fall short of this, contributing to understimulation of muscle synthesis during a key part of the day.
Whey protein is often cited as the gold standard for leucine delivery because it contains a high concentration of leucine per gram of protein. Around a 25-gram serving of whey protein isolate can provide close to 2.7 grams of leucine, an ideal dose for stimulating muscle synthesis. In contrast, plant-based proteins often contain lower levels of leucine and are less bioavailable. To achieve the same anabolic effect from plant sources, larger volumes or strategically fortified blends are needed. Some newer plant-based protein powders now add isolated leucine to close this gap. The timing of leucine intake also plays a vital role. Muscle protein synthesis is stimulated for only a limited period following leucine ingestion, typically 2 to 3 hours. To keep the body in a state that favors muscle repair and growth, leucine-rich protein should be consumed every 4 to 5 hours, ideally distributed across 3 to 4 meals per day. Skipping meals or concentrating protein at only one time, like dinner, leads to missed anabolic window. Pre- and post-exercise windows are particularly important. In younger individuals, fasted training may be tolerable, but older adults experience better outcomes when they consume leucine or protein before training. This primes the muscle to respond to the workout and ensures the necessary amino acids are circulating when synthesis is triggered by exercise. Post-workout leucine-rich protein can further amplify the anabolic response and support recovery. Leucine also works better when paired with other synergistic nutrients. Vitamin D helps maintain muscle function and supports protein synthesis. Creatine increases muscle energy stores and works through a separate complementary mechanism to promote muscle growth. Omega-3 fatty acids have been shown to reduce inflammation and may enhance muscle sensitivity to leucine. All of these can be stacked to improve muscle rebuilding, especially in older adults or individuals recovering from injury. In sum, effective leucine delivery isn't just about taking a supplement, it's about strategic timing, meal planning, and combining the nutrient with exercise and supportive compounds. When done correctly, leucine becomes a powerful tool, not just a component of diet, but a precision lever for activating growth, restoring strength, and reversing sarcopenia.
The fight against sarcopenia doesn't end with the right nutrient, it begins. While leucine is a powerful initiator of muscle protein synthesis, it becomes truly transformative only when integrated into a broader lifestyle framework, particularly resistance training and consistent nutrient timing. These elements work synergistically to create a state of repeated, optimized anabolic signaling that not only halts muscle loss but drives robust muscle growth even in older adults. The reason for this lies in the mechanosensitivity of muscle tissue. Muscle isn't just passive tissue waiting to be fed, it's a dynamic, highly adaptive system that responds directly to mechanical load. When you lift weights or engage in resistance-based movement, whether it's bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, or free weights, you activate a host of cellular signaling pathways, including mTOR through mechanical tension. This is entirely separate from the nutrient-triggered activation of mTOR by leucine. When both signals arrive together, mechanical and nutritional, the anabolic response is significantly amplified. This synergy is especially important for older individuals. Studies have shown that resistance training alone can stimulate muscle growth, but when paired with leucine-rich nutrition, the results are dramatically more effective. Muscle fibers increase in size, strength improves, and functional mobility. Walking speed, balance, ability to climb stairs shows measurable gains. What's even more encouraging is that these changes can occur in as little as 8 to 12 weeks when training is combined with proper nutritional strategies. Timing plays a crucial role here. After resistance exercise, muscles enter a heightened state of anabolic sensitivity for several hours, what's often called the anabolic window. Consuming a leucine-rich protein source within this window ensures that amino acids are readily available when the muscle is most responsive. But beyond the post-workout period, distributing protein intake evenly across the day, ideally in 3 or 4 doses of 25-30 grams of high-quality protein each, helps maintain elevated rates of muscle protein synthesis and prevents periods of catabolism. This pattern becomes even more important with aging. Many older adults consume very little protein at breakfast and lunch, concentrating most of their intake at dinner. As a result, they miss key opportunities for muscle maintenance and growth earlier in the day. Correcting this by ensuring every meal contains the leucine threshold creates multiple pulses of muscle protein synthesis throughout the day, each reinforcing the body's rebuilding process. Importantly, none of this requires extreme measures. Resistance training can begin with just 2 to 3 sessions per week, targeting major muscle groups with progressive overload, gradually increasing tension or resistance over time. Bodyweight squats, push-ups against a wall, resistance bands, or even light dumbbells can serve as powerful tools when combined with leucine-rich meals. The goal isn't just aesthetics or strength, it's resilience, independence, and health span. By combining the biochemical signal of leucine with the physical stimulus of resistance training, we reprogram the muscle to grow stronger, not weaker, with age. This integrated approach is what turns scientific insight into meaningful transformation. It's how you don't just slow aging, you reverse one of its most damaging effects. In conclusion, sarcopenia is not an inevitable consequence of aging, it's a reversible condition rooted in biology, not fate. We've seen that muscle loss begins earlier than most realize, and if left unchecked can lead to serious declines in strength, mobility, and overall health. But the science is clear, there is a path forward, and it starts with understanding how to restore the balance between muscle protein synthesis and breakdown. At the heart of this strategy is leucine, the one nutrient that doesn't just support muscle growth, but directly activates the body's internal muscle-building machinery via the mTOR pathway. Unlike other amino acids, leucine acts as a signal telling the body when to initiate muscle repair and growth. And when delivered in the right dose, 2.5 to 3 grams per meal at the right time, and in combination with resistance training, its effects are profound. We must think beyond simply eating more protein. Instead, we need to focus on the precision of delivery, high leucine meals spaced throughout the day, strategic post-exercise nutrition, and integration with physical training. These actions don't require extreme effort, but they do require consistency and intentionality. This isn't just about looking fit, it's about maintaining autonomy, avoiding frailty, and staying physically capable as we age. By understanding the science and applying it with discipline, we can shift the trajectory of aging in our favor. So the takeaway is simple: rebuild muscle by activating it through movement and feeding it with purpose. Leucine is the switch, resistance training is the stimulus, and when used together they offer a powerful solution to defeat sarcopenia, enhance longevity, and reclaim vitality at any age. The tools are in your hands. The change begins with action. Here's what this all means. You're not stuck with sarcopenia. You can rebuild, you can strengthen. But it starts by understanding that the body listens to biochemical signals. Leucine is one of the loudest signals we have to tell the body: grow, repair, strengthen. The research is clear, the application is simple, and the time to act is now. Thank you.